Hello everyone, it is April and I'm here to do my January wrap-up part 2. I've already done part 1, I will link that in the description box below, but I have 4 other books that I want to chat with you about here. One of them I DNF'd, one of them I don't even know what to do, I need your help. Let's get into it. We are creeping closer to 15,000 subscribers on this channel. And I am doing a $150 Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video, and like this video. Stick around until the end of this video and I'm going to get into more detail about the giveaway itself and how you can win. So the way we usually do this is we go from least favorite to most favorite, so we end on a high. Or is it the opposite? Today we're going to go from least favorite to most favorite. First we're going to talk about a DNF. I picked up The Royal Governess, thinking it was going to be perfect for me, and as it went along I struggled and I decided ultimately to put it aside. I'll pass it on to someone who hopefully will love it. This book is about a governess who essentially is quite poor in actuality, and it's based on a true story. This governess ended up taking care of Queen Elizabeth as a child. I think I got around 100 pages in and I just didn't want to go on. I felt like the characters of the princess and the king and the duke and the duchess, they all seemed very much like caricatures. I did think that there was a good amount of research that this author did into how they lived, and I appreciated that. But the characters were lacking from me. I also found our main character, I think her name was Marion, extremely annoying. She kind of stumbles upon becoming the governess of the princess, Elizabeth. And I found that a little bit confusing. Maybe that is what happened in actuality. But I found it extremely annoying that she didn't understand why, Elizabeth wouldn't be allowed to go on the subway or the underground. She didn't understand why Elizabeth needed to do so many dance lessons. And she was just like, this doesn't make any sense. When in actuality, it would be incredibly dangerous to send a princess out into the world without proper protection. And I just found her infuriating for not understanding that Elizabeth was going to be a queen. That's kind of what she's trained to be. And I just found it very frustrating. So after a few eye rolls, I stopped. It's not horrible writing or anything. It just wasn't working for me. I'm sure it would work for a lot of other people. And I felt kind of guilty because I posted this on Instagram and then the author, liked the post and said that she, hoped that I enjoy it. And I was at the very, very beginning, and then it just kind of, so I'm sorry, but I just can't. The next book I want to talk to you about is Anne of the Island. So this is the third in a series, the Anne of Green Gables series. It's a classic, definitely a Canadian classic. And I finally read Anne of Green Gables back in December. Really loved that, but I've been really struggling with the rest in the series. So I kind of want your help as to whether or not I should continue the series or just kind of wash my hands of it. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I think it's actually between a 2 and 3, and I'm being generous for me, bumping it up to 3. Anne of the Island follows Anne, who was an orphan. You meet her in Anne of Green Gables as an orphan, going to stay with her brother and sister and becoming Anne of Green Gables. So in Anne of the Island, she has grown up quite a bit and now she's at college. I found it quite choppy, which was odd. It felt like a lot of short stories just kind of jumbled up together. And I found that very frustrating. I did love Anne. You know, you can't help but love Anne. But I did feel like at the beginning of the book, I felt like she was almost taking on a Marilla mode. She was taking on that character, a very pious, very like, you know, helping this little boy, you know, come to God. And it was almost unrealistic for Anne. Not that Anne wouldn't be religious, but that she was just that religious seemed confusing. I also really struggled with any scenes with animals in this, like trigger warnings for animal cruelty. Who knew I would be saying trigger warnings for anything in an Anne of Green Gables book? I found that really frustrating. The way that animals' lives are essentially treated like they don't matter made me really uncomfortable and really frustrated. And there were moments where I actually didn't like Anne because of it. What? Anyway, I don't know whether I want to continue on or not. There were romancy bits in here that I did enjoy and that brought me a lot of excitement. Who am I again? But the rest just wasn't doing a lot for me. Should I continue? Should I just end it here? Let me know what you think. And then the last two books I want to talk to you about are two 4-star reads. They're both thrillers. And the first book I want to talk to you about is The Hypnotist by Lars Kepler. I really enjoyed this book. And I'm so glad because this is the start of a series. It's a detective series. We follow Detective Junalina. In this book, he is trying to solve a case in which a whole family has been very much brutally murdered, like stabbed to death, stabbed multiple times. And he finds a young, well, a teenage boy also stabbed multiple times, but he survives. And he's in the hospital and he has to reach out to a hypnotist to try and get this boy to tell him who stabbed everyone. It was very twisty-turny. I really liked that there were different storylines in here that I really didn't think were going to amount to anything that very much amounted to something. So it felt like there were multiple mysteries that you were following. I ended up really liking Junalina. He's one of those characters who's like a perfectionist. He does not rest until the case is solved. And if he has an inkling that something is the right way to go, he'll like insist upon it. And then if anyone has ever said, you know, maybe not the best idea, after it's gone his way and he was right, he will call that person and say, so I was right, right? And they need to say that he was right before he can move on and get off the phone. I found him quite funny, actually, in that way. I really, really enjoyed this. Very, very violent, I will say. Like, this has Karen Slaughter levels of violence. And so I would tell people not to just throw yourselves into this if you can't stand violence. This actually scared me at times. There is a character in here that seems like pure evil. And I was reading this right before bed, put on my eye mask, turned off the light, and then I was lying there in the dark and I was like, I have to take my eye mask off because I'm too scared. That's a good sign, I think, of a good book. So very much enjoying this. This is the first. I will continue with the series for sure. It's an ongoing series. And I think there are 7 of them already out, which is wonderful. So the last 4-star read I want to talk to you about, the last book that I want to talk to you about here is The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard. No surprise, I really, really enjoyed this book. Catherine Ryan Howard is an Irish author who there's something about her writing that sucks you in right away. She really pays attention to characters and makes you care about the characters. In this book, we follow 2 characters. One character is a woman who's written a story, written her story in a book. It is a nonfiction story about the murder of her family. A serial killer stopped by one night when she was, I think, 12 and killed everyone in her family except her. And she writes the stories of the people that he attacked or killed in this little town of Cork, I believe. And so she writes their stories and also her own. And, you know, those stories were so heartfelt. Like, I cared so much about her family, and she shows how much loss there is for the families of victims who were left behind. And she talks about what she has missed, especially with her little sister who was murdered. I really, really cared. So we follow her, and then we also follow the man that murdered her family. We follow this security guard who happens upon this book at the department store that he works at. And he realizes it's about him. He is the nothing man. And so he goes and picks up the book and reads it. And it's wonderful because you read bits of him reading the book and his reactions to it. And then you read the chapters that he's reading, and you go back and forth in time. And I thought that was really, really well done. He's a detestable, horrendous man, but I really enjoyed it. It's very, very much inspired by I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. So Catherine Ryan Howard got the idea for this book after reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and then we found out who the serial killer was in that book, like maybe a month after it was released. And so that inspired this whole book. Now, I will say, it felt very heavily inspired, so that's why I docked it 1 star. It just felt like it was a little bit too inspired, and it needed to go out on its own a little bit more for me to give it that 5 star, but it was fantastic. I will read all of her books. I love her so much. So I would definitely recommend that. And those are all of the books that I have read in the second half of January. Let me know in the comments below if you've read anything amazing in January. Again, help me out. Should I continue with the Anne series, or should I just be done with it? I'd love your input on that. I'll chat with you soon. Bye, guys. All right, with 15,000 subscribers just around the corner, this is your chance to win a $150 Amazon gift card. It's in Canadian because I am Canadian. And I hope that one of you will be able to buy all sorts of lovely books from your wish list with it. Now, in order to win, you need to first be subscribed to this channel, like this video, and also leave a comment in the comments below. After we hit 15,000 subscribers, I am going to pick a random video, randomize the comments, and pick a winner. So the more videos you watch, the more comments you leave, the more chances that you are going to have to win. Good luck to all of my bookish friends out there.